And now for the very latest on the closing of this year's CPPCC. Joining us live now is our correspondent Xia Cheng, who has been covering this event over the past week. Good to see you there, Xia Cheng. So in Wang Yang's address, he talked about the epidemic control and economic normalization. Fill us in on that. What did he talk about it?
Good to see you too, Qiu Yuan. So at the closing meeting of the CPPCC chairman, Wang Yang said that China will make pandemic control and prevention a routine work of China's policy making. So it means that China will continue to invest in 5G and artificial intelligence to monitor the situation here. And this is what he had to say. Take a listen.
The CPPCC members carefully reviewed documents and conducted in-depth consultations and communications. Discussions focused on normalization of pandemic prevention and control, as well as economic and social development. In order to achieve these tasks, members put forward political advice and established consensus. This shows the important role of the consultative body in the national governance system.
And that the second potential wave of pandemic could come in the near future, but we don't know exactly when it's going to come, and nobody's really ready for that. So China will continue to monitor the situation and will invest in 5G and artificial intelligence because they are useful technologies in containing the pandemic and tracking China's economic performance. Qiu Yuan.
And how has the Chinese market responded so far to the central government's economic policies this year?
Yeah, initially they were surprised by China's decision not to have a specific growth target, but they got relieved after the explanation coming out of all the CPPCC meetings and NPC sessions, because now China have more flexibility when it comes to policy making. China wants to take a more targeted approach towards policy making. They want to know the exact right decisions and economic policies for the future challenges. For example, trade environment is still very harsh for China, and the pandemic is still a big questionnaire for China's economic recovery. And this week, credit rating agency Fitch says that they are actually satisfied with China's work report. They say that China is taking this restrained and prudent policy making style this time. It is changing the way of policy making from a planning on to a more of a playing by ear kind of style. So Fitch says that as long as China can follow those policies through and create more jobs and make sure that social stability will remain, then they don't really see any risks for China's credit rating. And in the meantime, Standard Chartered Bank said this week that China's targeted fiscal stimulus will provide about 3 percentage points of GDP growth this year. That's actually higher than the market consensus of 1.8% growth this year. So Standard Chartered is one of the most optimistic organizations out there when it comes to this year's economic recovery, and we will keep an eye on that as well. In the meantime, the PBOC is having a pretty tricky task to do, because they don't want to create long-term high inflation by just pumping up cash into the market. So they will keep the monetary policy easy while stay focused on any potential risks going forward. If China's economy continues to drop in the third or fourth quarter, we might be able to see some direct support for the economy. For example, RRR cuts and interest rate cuts. But the government of PBOC said this week in a media report that this PBOC will continue to put more efforts into making sure that there will be ample liquidity in the market. They want to make sure that they can lower the lending cost, the overall lending cost in China, and they will support SMEs because smaller companies create 80% of jobs. They want to help those companies find more financing channels. They will allow those smaller companies to delay some of their loan repayments, and they will support China's companies to issue more debt and corporate bonds. Qiu Yuan.
All right, thanks so much for that update. Xia Cheng joining us in Beijing there. Appreciate it.